Hello and welcome to the Mal and Johnny Show. This week we're talking about a couple of stories that are in the news. Let's start with a sad story first of all, Johnny Tudor. The passing of Paul O'Grady.
Yeah, Paul O'Grady, what a character. I mean, he started life doing I think he was a social worker to start with, but he was working, doing all the clubs and pubs around Liverpool, and then he went to London and he was in the Soho area before he made it.
Yeah.
As his Lily Savage, persona. But he was a great character in his own right, as he showed afterwards. He had his own radio program and TV shows as himself. I thought he was great. And I met him once. I went up to London. I think I told you about 18 months ago. It was Wyn Calvin. They were doing a tribute lunch to Wyn just before he died, funny enough, at the Music Hall Society.
Right.
And they made Paul the new chairman.
Oh.
He was going to be the chairman for that year, I think.
Wow.
And he gave this fantastic speech. It was so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't mention it on air because you know what he was like. His language quite ripe. I mean, he was talking about kids in pantomime and how he hated them, because they'd shout out terrible things at him. But he was a nice guy, and I was talking to him about Liverpool and the clubs I'd worked in Liverpool, and I was surprised how tall he was. He was so tall.
Yeah. And it's funny, because I'm on lots of different WhatsApp group with different people. And I was talking to some lads I was in university with. We're called the Footy Boys. And this one of my friends sent a lovely picture of him and saying, lovely guy. My friend's wife's brother used to work with him in Birkenhead. And there's a picture of him from 1974. I'll just put that up now. Curly hair and flares, and a lovely guy working there in Liverpool. I heard a great story. In fact, I was listening to Prime Minister's Questions Time today, and Chris Bryant got up. Now, he's the MP for the Rhondda.
That's right. Yeah.
He was on the Privilege Committee, but he recused himself before the Boris Johnson thing. And I met him last week. I was up in the House. I don't want to talk about it, you know me. But I was up in the House of Commons the other week, and I had a little chat with that just fell out naturally, isn't it? With Chris, Chrissy, and but he said this lovely thing in the House of Commons. It's a story that's been on some of the newspapers as well. That because obviously in the 80s with the whole AIDS epidemic going on.
Yeah.
The police made a raid on what is essentially called a gay pub, and they went in there with rubber gloves because they didn't, people didn't know what was going on in those days, and they thought you could catch it from a toilet seat, didn't they, or from touching people?
The AIDS game, yeah.
So the police apparently they did a raid. They came in with their rubber gloves, and Lily Savage was on stage. She said, "Oh, well, we know who's going to be helping us with the washing up later."
Lovely, so
quick, isn't it? That's a quick thing.
I see Liverpudlians in general are funny people. I mean, I used to love working the clubs up there because they were all characters.
Yeah,
even the man in the street, he'd have a quip. You know what I mean?
I suppose it was a mixture of all those, the Irish and the Welsh and all those people coming together. You had to be funny to survive. I suppose either fight or make people laugh.
I know. Oh, they were funny people. I loved them. And I did a panto there, didn't I, years ago with Barbara Windsor at the Royal Court.
Yeah.
And it was a great season because all the characters backstage, And there were three girls there. They were the dressers.
Yes.
Called Thelma, Audrey and Maureen.
Right.
Known as Thelma, Auden, Mew. Thelma, Auden, Mew. And so Bill Maynard, who was a bit of a right card, he's always trying to wind people up. Yeah. I'm in his dressing room, and in comes one of them. I think it was Maureen, one of them. And I was there in my underpants. He said, he wants to take you out, Maureen. But he didn't say that. He's a bit more explicit than that. So one of the other girls said, "Oh, she's made up now. She's caught you without your kecks." They're great. The characters. The characters.
And the thing is, in fact, apparently the police arrested him. And they said, "Nay."
Who arrested who?
Lily Savage, because he was in this pub in 87. And I've got the stories of it, but they said, "No, what's your full name?" And it was Lily something Savage. He played along. He played in character all the way through as Lily Savage, the drag artist. Actually, just talking about that whole era, I did an interesting last Saturday. It was to raise money for the Swansea Rainbow Counselling Centre. They're under a bit of financial stress at the moment. So Sian James, who was in the film, did you ever see the film Pride? You were in it, were you?
Well, Sian James, is she the singer as well?
No, she's she was an MP. In fact, when the strike happened, she was, as they say, a housewife. But
All right,
the strike gave women a voice, because they organised themselves. And in fact, she was explaining that it was the men couldn't go on picket once they'd been sort of notified once or arrested by the police once. If they were arrested again, the union couldn't support them. So the women would go on the picket lines more than the men because they had to save them. Then they organised all the the foods and then obviously she was the one who was they got in contact with her with the lesbians and gay miners. Support the miners group that came down. Right, if you've seen the film Pride, it's pretty much spot on. What happened? This guy called Mark Ashton, he was only in his 20s. He was an activist, and he just saw what was happening to the miners, the way the police were treating them. And he thought, well, that's the way they treat us. In London, the police I
never saw the actual thing. I've seen snippets of it on the box now.
It's really good. Yeah. So, and sadly, this lad Mark Ashton passed away. He was only 24. He passed away of AIDS. But one of the characters in the film is played by Dominic West, and the lad's name is Jonathan Blake. And Jonathan, his grandfather was a rabbi from Swansea. His mother was born in Swansea, then they emigrated. So he had a Welsh connection. He's the one in the film who teaches the girls how to dance. And in real life, there's this great photograph of him teaching the girls to dance in Dowlice. It's like full on, full of dancing stuff. And he was called L1, London 1. He was the first person in London to have HIV, to be diagnosed. Wow. And he's 72 now, and he's still alive. And he's
they got around it, didn't they? They got the drugs and they saved him then.
Yeah, well, he was told. He was told he had 2 months to live. You got 2 months to live. So there's nothing we can do for you. Off you go. And he said, and here I still am. So that was remarkable. And of course, Lily Savage. Lily Savage was funny, and people who maybe didn't like drag artists like Lily Savage because she was funny, and they'd watch them with their grandchildren, but she was pretty political as well. She was, she fought her corner, but with humour as well.
The thing with him doing the Lily Savage, he did it like a rough housewife, didn't he? Like there's no polish on it. It was real. Oh, I tell lad, and he didn't do it with a girl's voice. No. He wasn't being a drag queen in a way, was he?
No.
He was bloke dressed up.
Yeah.
And I love the title of his book. What was it called? Stories at my mother's knee or at other low joints.
Somebody said they'd seen him he was in Prisoner in Cell Block H, a touring production in the Grand Theatre, So he did all sorts of things. 67, that's no age at all, is it?
No, he'd had heart problems, hadn't he? I think he'd had a heart attack before.
Yeah.
But he was very thin. I got a feeling he was a smoker. I don't know. He may have given it up. But he'd had one bad heart attack at one point, so perhaps that's what happened. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be.
There we are. He should be missed.
He will
because he was a character.
And
hey, what about the other news then, Mr. David Jason, your pal and mine?
Now then, tell us the story. Tell us the story. Not that we want to gossip, Johnny. We're not wants to gossip.
No, we're not going to gossip. No. Well, the thing is, I've known David Jason since the 70s because he met Olwen, my wife, when he was in the film Under Milk Wood. He was playing No Good Boyo, and Alwyn was playing the head of the school teachers. No, the school girl she was, because she was 20-something, but she looked about 12. And that's how she met him. And when I was away in Australia, she rang me and said, I'm going to see a friend of mine called David Jason, because nobody knew he hadn't done Fools or any of those things. And he was at the Sherman in Cardiff. So she said, I'm going to take Muv with me, Muv or Anwy Talon, who was Alwyn's best friend. And they went along, and then he said to Olwen later, he wrote Olwen a letter. He said, do you think that Muv Anwy would go out with me? She said, well, I'll give her your address. It's up to you. Anyway, Muv Anwy did go out with him. And in the end, they were like partners for years.
Yes.
And now this has all come up about his love child from somewhere. And it's Jennifer Hill. Now, Jennifer Hill was an actress, quite well-known actress from Port Talbot, right? And Jennifer Hill was his girlfriend before Anwy Talon.
Oh, and there was something about Under Milkwood, how they met, wasn't it? Is that right?
They met in the stage production of Under Milkwood, I believe.
Right.
But Jennifer Hill used to talk about him, and said he couldn't commit to never. When things break up, But I haven't seen him for years now because he used to come down with Muv, you see. He loved his pint of Brains beer, and he was one of the boys. In fact, he came to a club with me one night. He wanted to see what it was like in a working men's club. I said, well, I got one. I'm doing one next week. I'll come, he said. So along he came and he sat in the front watching the show. He just loved it.
And
I haven't seen it for ages.
I mean, the interesting thing is, I remember Michael Bogdanov told me this. The leading man and the leading lady in a play or a musical, they always fall in love for real. I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Because suddenly you're all thrown together and it's intense emotions.
Look at me and Olwen. I was Dick Whitton and she was Alice Fitzwarren. Look, the rest is history. But it's a lovely story. Do you know the story about the little... He's a method actor. Yeah. He's got no work. He's skint and he gets offered to play in Hamlet. Mm-hmm. And he said, I've never done it. I've never done Shakespeare. And he finds out this guy lives upstairs in a garret who's an old thespian. Mm-hmm. Knocks on his door. He said, excuse me, sir. He said, can you help me? I've been offered this part. He said, can you tell me if Ophelia ever slept with is it Hamlet? And he said, I don't know about the London production, but we always did on tour. That's great. It says it all, doesn't it?
It does indeed. So you can sort of understand.
In fact, I think David Jason told me that joke.
Wow. But he's taken it very well, isn't he? I mean, he's in his 80s himself. He got married to a younger lady after my family passed away.
Yeah.
And
he's 83, I think. And he's got 83.
He's got a young daughter as well. But it would come as a shock to you, wouldn't it, Johnny?
Well, if a 52-year-old bloke turned up now and said, "I'm your son, and I want half your wages." Because let's be fair, if something happened, you'd be liable to split it. Yeah. I don't know what the law is
what the rules are.
But, But anyway, he seems to be happy with it. It's all the papers that he's a great find of this girl, his long lost daughter.
Oh well, we wish them well because sometimes those
she's
stories.
Got a child as well, so he's a grandfather, and he didn't know he was.
Wow! So hopefully everybody's gonna turn out happy in the end. Live happily ever after. Because that's what...
I remember years ago, one of my first gigs ever when I was a kid in a show, and one of the girls told me she was pregnant, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't believe it. And of course, I don't think it was true anyway. But who knows? I'll have a knock on my door. Somebody say hello, Dad.
Hi, Dad. Oh, hi, Granddad.
Yeah.
Oh, Johnny. All right. Well, Paul Grady, rest in peace, and there'll be lots of tributes tonight and over the weekend as well on Paul Grady. And may David Jason enjoy becoming a dad again at the age of 82 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think he's 82, 83. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, and we're together on Friday night at the It's My Shout Awards.
We are. I'm going to present an award with Olwen for the. I won't say this because I've got to say it on the night, haven't I?
No, don't.
Well, I could say it. But
no, don't.
What do you think?
No, don't say. I'm doing.
And you're going to present an award as well.
Yeah, for the music department or something like that. So looking forward. We'd love to see you and to see Olwen. I haven't seen Olwen for a very long time. So between the two of you,
we can have a drink together.
We'll have a little glass of pop.
A good night. It's going to be a good night. I think it starts quite early, doesn't it?
All right.
Like 5:30, they start doing stuff. And 6:30, you've got to be there, for definite.
It's lovely. All right, but good stuff. All right, well, it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him. And goodbye from Paul O'Grady, rest in peace. And goodbye from David Jason. And best of luck.
Best of luck. Best of luck to you too.